joined PepsiCo. Just 12 years later,
the CEO then, Steve Reinemund, said the board is going to, likelihood vote you in as CEO. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to be CEO, and that's a pretty big shock.
She was one of the first women of color to lead a Fortune 500 company.
A woman in an iconic US-based company that's gone global, that has always been run by white males. And you've got the beginnings of a juicy story.
As CEO, Nooyi oversaw a bold new strategy, performance with purpose, a movement to create healthier products, protect the planet, and empower people and communities, especially women and girls, around the world. Some investors were skeptical, but the strategy paid off.
I've always focused on doing a damn good job and just hoping the rest of it takes care of itself.
Her company registered 80% growth while moving to more health-conscious products. The company was also greener, and it was helping women around the world.
Gender diversity has to be embraced as the only way for a company to be successful. I don't think we have a choice.
PepsiCo pledged to achieve gender parity in management by 2025 and committed $100 million to support education and workforce training for girls and young women. From the beginning, a game changer with a game-changing strategy for success, showing the world that higher profits and higher purpose can go together.
We've got to allow people to be bold, write the rules any way they want, and that's what they're doing in our company.
Whether in busting a dance move or simply enjoying the company of others. Indra, congratulations. You deserve this honor more than anyone I know. Keep dancing.
Good luck in your next wonderful act. I know you and Raj are ready to be, as you said, Asian grandparents on steroids. Bravo, Indra. We love you.
Good afternoon, everyone. We want to get started. I know some people are still trickling in. You see a lot of seats here because we have a lot of our Asia Game Changers in the house. But we're going to start with one very special one, our Game Changer of the Year. And to kick us off this afternoon, many of you know we have, ever since this Game Changer initiative began, which we're in the 5th iteration of it, We have had from the beginning a great partnership with the folks at Citi. And to kick us off for this public version of the Asia Game Changers program, please welcome from Citi, Managing Director and Chief Risk Officer for Citigroup Global Markets, Ms. Debbie Ng.
Thank you, Tom. So good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of Citi and the Asia Society, thank you for joining us today as we honor this year's Asia Game Changers, an extraordinary group of leaders who are transforming Asia and the world. Citi is thrilled to partner with the Asia Society again as we celebrate these individuals and their remarkable achievements. I'm personally honored to be here today as a woman to celebrate the incredible game-changing women here in this room, whose fearless leadership has shattered countless stereotypes. Citi has been a founding partner of the Asia Game Changers Award since the awards were inception 5 years ago. Our two organizations share a passion for enabling progress and empowerment. These awards recognize the Game Changers' dedication to meeting the world's toughest challenges with curiosity, creativity, and sheer courage. Today, we honor this group of remarkable individuals whose leadership has contributed to fostering peace, quality, sustainability, and selfless acts across the world. I want to congratulate all of this year's impressive honorees. This is an inspiring room of leaders who continue to push boundaries to create a better future. So we start this afternoon with the Asia Society Game Changer of the Year, the woman who was the first Indian to run a Fortune 500 company, a woman who brought transformative change to PepsiCo, who brought what she called performance with purpose to the company. And by the way, the company's stock rose 80% in that period. You probably know that Indra Nooyi stepped down just last week after a dozen amazing years at the helm. She now has some time to spend with all of us. So she'll be taking part in a conversation with the Asia Society's Tom Nagorski, who then will be joined by other members of this great group of game changers. Please welcome Indra Nooyi.
Thank you.
Thank you all for being here this afternoon. It's one of our favorite days of the year for many reasons, but it's only the last two that we decided we need to share our happiness and pleasure and privilege, really, with an audience here in New York. And thank you, Indra Nooyi, so much for spending some time this afternoon and this evening at the gala event downtown with us. Before we get to the subject, and I'm going to share with you exactly what Indra Nooyi requested that we speak about today, but I have to ask you on the subject of spending some time with us, what's it like to have a little bit of free time? It's been a week, right?
It's actually liberating.
Yeah.
When I stepped down, I thought it was going to be tough because for 40 years I've done nothing but wake up at 4 a.m. and just figure out how to rush to work and work 18, 20 hours a day. And when October 2nd rolled around, I thought I was going to feel like I was bereft, something terrible had happened to me. And then I woke up on October 3rd and felt light. And I realized that there is life beyond working so hard. And so
I assume you didn't wake up at 4:30.
I did. That I haven't yet. I mean, that part requires reprogramming. But I look at this display of our waters and I say, wow, that's good, looks good. So I'm still a PepsiCo CEO at heart, but I'm learning to step aside and actually realize that there's life beyond PepsiCo.
Yeah. Well, we could spend all our time today talking about life beyond PepsiCo, but when we broach the idea of a conversation about leadership, about any number of things that come to mind when we are doing these game changer events, Indra Nooyi said, how about a conversation about the Asian family model? And we've just been talking about some thoughts and ideas you plan to share soon on this, and how that model can serve as a useful example in the United States as we strive for a work-life balance here. So I wonder, first of all, why that was the subject that you thought we should stress and focus on, and also what exactly is meant in your mind by that Asian model?
Thanks for asking that, Tom. Over the last few years, I've been talking a lot about work-life balance and how difficult it is, and whether women in particular can have it all. And sometimes when I speak my mind and tell the truth, I have as many critics as I have supporters. And some people will say that by saying that women can't have it all, I'm putting the cause of women a step back. Others will say, thank God you're talking about it honestly. But the fact of the matter is, in today's world, it's high time we had the honest conversation, because there was a great article in The Economist about 3 weeks ago. It sort of portrays the life of a working woman when she comes home with the phone stuck to her ear, and she walks in the house, the children are crying, the nanny says, I have to leave. The nanny leaves and the house is in disarray. She's still on a conference call, but has to juggle all of the jobs at home. Now, I use the word women. I'd say it's parents, but the load falls disproportionately on women. So the big question that I've been asking myself, we've been talking about this issue for such a long time on work-life balance, and how do we get society to have a replacement rate, which is pretty impressive to keep the country growing. At the same time, how do we employ all women gainfully in the economy, because we need them to work? Yet, how do we make sure that they're not trying to do 3 jobs and still get ahead? And if you really look at the math, it's pretty difficult to make work. And so I started with saying, we've often talked about daycare and childcare, but with the aging boomers, we've got an aging parent issue. And so this population in the middle is the sandwich generation, because they have to worry about the aging parents and the children. And so the more I thought about it, I started to reflect, especially after I announced my departure, on how did I do all that I did? Because you have to relate it back to your own life. And I realized that I imported a quintessential Asian model to my life. So when I had my first daughter, both my husband and I were just starting out. We had no money, and we were working incredibly hard and traveling. We didn't want to leave our kids with a daycare worker who's not accredited, who we can't supervise, because those days there was not enough technology to supervise them. So we imported family in rotation. We prepared a schedule for 3 years.
Literally imported an Asian model.
3 years. We asked every aunt, uncle, parents, grandparents, in-laws, everybody, and said, come for 3 months and supervise the nanny. And the 4th month, you can visit the US on our nickel.
Yeah.
So for 3 months, they'd come, just sit at home, watch TV, and have a meal, and we'd take them around shopping over the weekend, which is all they wanted to do. And then the 4th month, they left. So we did that, prepared the schedule. And I said, thank God we have an Asian family that was willing to step in and help. Now, in return, as they get older, my mother lives with the kids. We wouldn't dream of putting her in any sort of senior care. She's 86, healthy, but she contributes to the family, but we take care of her. Right. My mother-in-law is also being taken care of by us. And as we get older, we get worried about who's going to take care of us, as we get older. So we make sure our kids understand there is an Asian model where you do not forget your parents, okay? You do not forget it. And I'll tell you a little story. My second daughter was applying for college. And she said, Mom, I've been at home right next to the house all these years. I'm going to go far away. I said, okay, where are you going? California, Texas, where are you going to go for college? She said, I'm going to New York City. I said, NYU, that's next door. She said, yeah, but it's far enough, but not at home. I said, but why New York? She said, well, if something is wrong with you guys, you get sick or something, I want to be there to take care of you. I said, thank God. I brought them up right. I say this to you because I know Asia is changing too, but that Asian model that I grew up with is the model we need to import here. We need to have more multi-generational families living together. We need to have the older generation helping the young people supervise the daycare facilities. We need to build communities where the older people and the young people can live together, because all studies show that when older people live with younger people, they actually live longer and healthier, And little kids can also learn the value of respect and wisdom from older people. So I am, doing a fairly major piece on this topic. I'm in the process of writing it. But I honestly believe we need solutions to address this whole issue of work-life balance, and co-opting the entire family is part of this solution. And I think it's time we embraced it.
So just if we can come back to your personal experience just for one more moment, I'm fascinated by one thing you said about these people who were coming in from your family in India. So how long did how many versions of the 3-month visits did you have, and did that?
So the rule was you should be with us until our daughter can tell us if the babysitter is treating her badly. So until our daughter could tell us clearly what was going on with the babysitter, we needed family to oversee them. So we had this grid that we'd planned, because we have this interesting system in India for all of those who are Indians here. You can collect your vacation over multiple years, and nobody takes vacation in India. So some of my uncles and aunts had 6-9 months of vacation. So to ask them to give up 2 months, 3 months wasn't a big deal. They didn't have anything to do, you see, no expenses. We gave them a visit to the US. They just sat at home and did nothing. They just visited for 3 months, made sure that the daycare worker was doing her job, and cooked a great meal for us when we got home.
Wow.
And things worked out pretty good. And we did the same thing for our second child.
That's great. I mean, there's probably, not your experience, because it sounds like it went swimmingly, there's probably a great novel or film one could do about the...
I don't know about that. I don't know about novel or film, but, all these visitors have their own challenges, but you can't expect to have every part of your life be perfect.
Right.
You've got to learn to make trade-offs. And if it's trade-offs where every weekend they want to go to the same shopping mall and shop, that's okay. Say that you love it.
So to the broader question then, everything you say, I mean, any of us with elderly relatives, I mean, we've all been through a version of this, either as parents or children of the elderly. There's such a common sense wisdom in it. What do you think, or do you think it can catch on here? What do you think prevents it from being in place already? I'm not talking now about flying relatives in. I'm just saying that if why doesn't it work?
I think the focus has been too much on the nucleus family. And we've basically, with mobility and the focus on the nucleus family, we've forgotten that the definition of the family is much broader than just the nucleus family. And so 2 things have to happen. One, we have to broaden our definition of what's family. Second is, the broader family has got to be willing to up and move.
Right.
Because many people put down roots, and I understand that, because when my mother first moved in with us, she struggled not to be in her house in India. So it took about 5 years to get used to the fact that this is going to be the new house, just live with it, okay? But they struggled with leaving their friends and leaving their ecosystem and coming to live with the kids. And they don't want to be dependent on the kids. At the same time, you can't call it a dependency. You've got to call it, the family is reconstituting a different way. And don't make them feel like they're a burden. Make them feel like they're part of your life. So co-opt them. And that's what we did with all of the extended family. And with my mother, she's very much part of our life, and she has a role to play, a gainful role to play. And our whole mindset has to change. Tom, I'll turn the question another way. If we don't come up with these solutions, how are we going to address this whole issue of childcare and, a work life? And I don't know how we're going to handle this. We need solutions.
Right.
This is one of them. And as our parents get older, as we get older, how are we going to handle aging care? We have 1 million care worker shortage in the country. Who's going to take care of them? Not robots. We have to do it. So I think this is killing 2 birds with a stone.
And is it a matter, do you think, of the power of persuasion and influential people like yourself making the case? This does not sound like the sort of thing that government really can play much of a role in, or...
I don't think it's a governmental issue. I think if more developers start to build real estate communities, which have the younger people on the outer rim, the aging parents on the inner circle, and then a central community center, which can also serve as a daycare, where the elderly people can take turns at supervising the daycare. Remember, we're a country where our daycare workers are not trained or certified. And so, we are entrusting our most prized possession, our little babies, to childcare workers who don't have a certification. So having some supervision beyond technology is not a bad thing.
Right.
So governments can't do it. I think communities and families and corporations helping too can move this forward.
So speaking of corporations, and I know a fact here, but I don't know the underlying reasons behind the fact. At PepsiCo, the rate of, or I guess it's satisfaction among the women in the workplace was always very high, the folks who would rank those kinds of things at Fortune 500 or maybe other companies. So that's the fact we know. What do you think, well, you must know what the underlying reasons were for that in terms of either policies put in place? I don't know if it's related to any of the things you've been talking about.
Yes and no. I think PepsiCo has always been a company which has had a soul. When you come to work in our company, you actually feel wanted. You're not just a name and a number. You're viewed as an asset. And from top to bottom, it doesn't matter what your level is, you are truly appreciated and welcomed. We have an incredible rewarding culture. So, we recognize people a lot. We, from the front line to the factory worker, we have award ceremonies. And so people feel very important in PepsiCo. But we have a lot of programs that allow people to have, make a living and have a life. So in many large facilities, we have either on-site or near-site daycare. In our headquarters in Purchase, we have a on-site daycare facility, and it's just adorable to watch. From the time somebody gives birth to the time, I think, a little just over 3 years, you can be in the daycare center. And the last day that I was there, I went down to read to those kids, and just watching those kids, asking you to read a book. Again, read another book, read another book. So I read them 3 books, and fortunately, there are only 3. Otherwise, I'd have spent the whole day reading to them. And then they were lining up to give you a hug. Oh. I mean, it was just the fact that the mothers and fathers were so happy to be able to come in at 7 a.m., drop their kids off at the daycare center, and it's open till 7 p.m. They can work late, pick up their child, and leave. I think if we don't provide those sorts of support systems for families, I don't know how we're going to do it. Now, if you're a small company, this challenge is different. Large companies, we can do it. I don't have a solution for small and medium-sized companies, but for large companies, there's a lot we can do.
So I want to ask you one more thing, but I should say Indra Nooyi can be with us till just a little bit after the top of the hour, so if there are questions, I'd be happy to relinquish to any of you. But just one quick one, which I learned by putting, when we were working on this video, which some of you may have seen when you came in, this story that you tell about, speaking of relations with family and women's roles, that when you were accepted to the business school at Yale, and obviously a great achievement and a great moment, and you told your family, and well, why don't you explain what your mother's reaction was, and then I'm curious to know, she didn't want you to go, is that right?
Actually, Yale wasn't so bad. When my sister got into business school in India, which was the first time somebody was leaving home, my mother said, hey, you can't leave home unless you're married, because girls don't leave the home until you're married. So let's get you married and get you out. And my sister was only 17 or 18. And my sister said, I don't want to get married. I want to go to business school. They only admit 5 women in a class of 150. It's a big accolade. I want to go. And my mother said, okay, if you go, I'm going to fast until I die. Okay? All right? But my grandfather and my father said, hey, your fees has already been paid. We've already sent the advance in. Don't worry about your mom. If anything happens to her, we'll take care of you.
Wow.
All right? 24 hours later, mom has broken the fast. My father and grandfather are dead, but my mom's still around. Thank God. But I think the men in our family basically said, I'm not going to distinguish between or differentiate between men and women. All of you can dream big. So nobody is going to put the brakes on our granddaughters or our daughters. So my father was delighted to write the check. He took my sister and dropped her off in business school. And once he greased his kids, the rest of us, piece of cake.
It reminds me actually that one of your predecessors in this brief history of the Game Changer Awards, Malala Yousafzai, she was here with her father, and you've probably heard this, but she gave all the credit to her, getting where she has come to the fact that there was a good male role model in her family.
Absolutely. We've all had them.
Yeah. So are there any questions in the audience? There are a few that have come in online. Yes, we have one in the third row here. If you can wait, sir, for the microphone and let us know who you are.
I'm Raj Rangarajan, a freelance writer. Now that you're enjoying your retirement just for a week, I know, would you like to join the cabinet of Mr. Trump?
Me and politics don't mix at all. Because I'm too outspoken, I'm not diplomatic. I don't even know what diplomacy is, so I would cause a third world war. Don't do it.
That takes care of that. Any other questions? While a microphone finds this woman here, actually, let's let her ask, and then we'll come to this one because it's complicated. Yeah.
Hello, ma'am. Such an honor to hear you today. My name is Bhavya. I work for an Indian firm based in New York. It's been a delight to see you all the time, and meeting Indra Nooyi in person is definitely a great thing. I wanted to know, as a woman, what are the 2-3 things which you will probably like to tell fellow women to be a superwoman like you? What are the very important things that are important in terms of, taking care of the house, yet being there in the corporate ladder?
I'll tell you, my experience and what I did to move here may not be the same, or may not apply to you 100%, but I'll give you a couple of 3 tips. Remember the story about my mother saying, leave the crown in the garage? Mm-hmm. That is true. Do not bring it in. And I'm now going to say something which some of you are going to hate me for it. If your husband wants to bring it in, that's just fine. That's his crown. But don't take your crown in. If you want to stay married, if you want to be a daughter, if you want to be a wife, if you want to be a mom, unfortunately, that crown stays in the car. That's unfortunate rule number 1. And if nobody's home and you want to put it on, put it on. But, don't do it with the others around, because somebody has got to play the role of, hey, let's get everybody together. So that's rule number 1. Second rule is, many of us, and I watch my daughters too, in today's world of equality, we all are fighting for equality. You're right, we do want equality. But at some point, somebody in the house has to call the shots on stuff that's not work-related. It relates to leaving the crown in the garage, but nobody's going to be mom. Nobody's going to be mom. Even when we're looking for a daycare worker, we're looking for a temporary mom or a temporary, your daycare worker is a temporary mother. So nobody's ever going to play that role. So figure out how to play that role with aplomb, because, we are a species where you give birth to a child. It's not a zebra. It needs us for many, many years before it can be on its own. So we have that responsibility and role to play. And embrace it, don't fight it all the time. And the last is have confidence in yourself. Most of the women I meet, one of the things I realize is that because of all the pressures at home, because of societal pressures, they start to lose confidence in themselves. Don't. The women I meet are simply awesome. They have the intellectual capability, they have the presence, they can communicate, bring it to the fore. And at the end of the day, if you don't have time for yourself, that's collateral damage. The rest of it, figure out a way to balance it and move forward. Okay?
Wow. How did you make time for yourself?
I didn't. When I was working, I didn't. Or you don't sleep. That's the only way you make time for yourself, okay? But you know what? You get used to it. There's only 24 hours in a day, so you have to somehow make everything happen.
Yeah. I should have said at the outset that, like our other programs, this is being webcast. We have a question online from Daniel in Mexico. So here is a man asking a question, and he's asking from south of the border, how will you continue to be a role model for women and girls?
Look, I'm still going to be present. I'm going to be talking in any forum that will invite me, I guess. But
this door is always open.
No, I'm going to be writing a lot about this topic. And the goal is to visit as many countries as possible and talk to young people and give them hope that they can do it for the future. And keep talking about what can be done by societies, families, governments, corporations to actually help families address these issues of work life. So I'll keep doing that. I mean, I'm not going to go away just because I've stepped down from being CEO. In fact, I think the fact that I've stepped down gives me more freedom to talk about a lot of these issues. So I'm looking forward to it.
Great. Yeah, I think we have two in the fourth row, right? Sure. Mm-hmm.
Hi, Indra. Lavina here. I wanted to find out from you that what's the biggest treat for you in this? You know, your time is totally your own, so what do you relish doing the most now?
You know, this is only 1 week. This is literally 1 week since I stepped down. So I'm not yet off the clock because I've still got back-to-back meetings for the balance of year. I think when January comes along and my calendar is freer, two things are going to happen. I'm going to have terrible withdrawal symptoms because I'm going to get up in the morning and say, wow, I have nothing to do, or I have 3 days where I'm totally free because I told my office to schedule meetings on 2 days, back-to-back, and then give me 3 days, you know, absolutely empty so that I can do whatever I want. I don't know yet what it is to have 3 days free because I've never really had it in 40 years. So learning that is a big thing. They've told me that I need to go to sleep school to learn how to sleep. I don't sleep at all. I mean, I'm awake all the time. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to learning to sleep 8 hours or 10 hours or 6 hours, okay? And then, you know, I do all kinds of extracurricular things. I play tennis, I do other things, and I'm looking forward to doing all of that much more rigorously as opposed to squeezing it when I have time and requesting the poor tennis coach to show up at 6:15 in the morning when the center only opens at 7:30, you know. Now I can go at 9 o'clock, you know. It's going to be a whole new experience for me because I'm going to see the sun at a different time. So I don't know how it's going to be, but I know whatever it is going to be fun. So my maids hate it. They're like, when are you going back? Because yesterday I was like, this is not clean. And how come this room is so dirty? And they're like, Mrs. Nooyi, when are you going back to work?
And you neglected, by the way, in that list to mention Yankee games, right?
Oh,
I've just been learning, if anybody here thinks they're a New York Yankee fan, you may have met your match. I don't know if you want to say anything about that.
I'm in mourning after yesterday.
Yeah, that was rough. I think we have
But
time
we're going to win today.
Win today, yes.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to have the Asia Game Changer Awards ceremony, and then you can
We're
go
going
and
to
watch
win,
the game.
that's right, of course, yeah. We always believe.
Yes, ma'am. I think this will have to be the last one. Still in the fourth row? Yep.
Thank you so much, Ms. Nooyi. My name is Nikita Desai. I'm with the Asia Foundation. You mentioned what you were talking about earlier in terms of having uncles and aunts and families being scheduled and including them in your community, in your livelihood, and you know, including them into your day-to-day life. What I've noticed a lot is, you know, being from India, being from Bombay, my mom and my dad had 4 or 5 siblings each. And now families are shrinking, and many are having 1 child or maybe just 2 max. And so with that, we're seeing smaller families and smaller nuclear families. So could you speak about that a little bit and how you envision the future of these young Indian parents that are trying to make it work in the model that you speak to?
That's a great question because in my family too, you know, my mother had 8 brothers and sisters, so we had a large group to call from. And my father, my husband's side also had a big family. You know, it's interesting, you know, we talk about the sharing economy, we talk about Uber and Airbnb and all of these sharing economies. Everything I look at is a sharing economy. You can share lawnmowers or whatever equipment. I think we have to figure out how to create more of a community time sharing to help families and help each other out. Where we've spent the last 4 years retreating more and more into our family unit and actually not interacting that much with the community, we're going to have to interact a lot more within the community. I mean, look, one of the thoughts I have is with 61% of all people living in megacities over the next 5 or 10 years, you know, that's the number that people are projecting. Should we almost say that every 1,000 families in a megacity, there should be a daycare center? A daycare center where the families can leave their children and that daycare center as opposed to carrying the children to the workplace or to a daycare center far away. And should we actually provide the daycare workers a space to live about the daycare center so they don't have to travel a long ways to come to take care of the kids. And then the community has to say, if you're late coming from work, I'll pick up your kid and I'll keep the child with me. So we have to break down those walls. But you in turn say, okay, here's a voucher. I owe you. I will train your kid in math if you can't do it. So we're going to have to break down the traditional barriers we had in communities, because if we don't do that, I don't know what else is the solution, okay? There is no robot that's going to do all your work, although you could say it does, but that's not what we want. If we want human contact, we're going to have to tap into every available capacity of the community. And we have to create communities if we don't have a ready-made one with our families. And so this is going to be a new model for us to live with each other. But it is the right model, and that's why I keep saying, at the end of the day, the traditional Asian value, which may be changing in these times, the traditional Asian values that I'm used to needs to be revived. The joint family, the coming together of communities has to happen.
On that note, we could talk forever. I know you can't talk forever, but really, really appreciate, I know even in your, and I put it this way, retirement, time is precious. So please, a warm hand for Indra Nooyi. Thank you. So while the next group of game changers is coming to the stage, Dr. Muderis, I said earlier on that this is just a great fun day for us. With the people who are perhaps a little less well known than Indra Nooyi, although after this session you will meet some people you may know very well from that incredible story in Thailand. We have guests who were integrally involved in the rescue and who actually were in those caves for all that time. But one of the wonders for us is to meet and get to know people who are less well known. We have 8 other honorees in the 2018 Asia Game Changers class. They are a great diverse group who represent quite a range of both geography and professional background. Our next conversation is with 3 Asia Game Changers, although there is a multiple in one case on the end. They're remarkable stories in their own right. So please, before we say much more about them, please welcome from Nepal, Meera Rai. To her right, from Herat, Afghanistan, Fatima Khaderian, Kausar Roshan, members of the Afghanistan Girls Robotics Team, and I should add, between them, a champion of their efforts, also from Afghanistan, and founder of the Afghan Citadel software company, Roya Mahbub. And closest to me, with a remarkable story you'll hear more about in a moment, from Australia, but sort of via Iraq, I guess, is not closest to me is my colleague Sanjeev. In the middle is Dr. Munjed Al-Muderis. Please welcome to him as well. So I said you'll hear more about the details of their lives. There were videos playing when some of you came in, and I hope it won't offend those who came early enough to just take a look at a couple of these again, because nothing I can say, even if I used a full 2 minutes, and which is how long these short videos run, can really do justice to their stories. So what I'd like to do, if the folks up in the booth can accommodate me, let's start with Meera Rai and take a moment, and you'll hear just a little bit about her story.
Meera Rai has always been running. As a child in a poor village in Nepal's Rajpur Mountains, running barefoot to the market to fetch rice for her family, running away at age 14 to become a child soldier for the promise of 2 meals a day. running with the soldiers in the jungle for 2 years, and then returning home with a dream. Nepal has had little success in international sport, men or women, but a chance encounter with 2 trail runners gave Mira the opportunity to enter her first race, the grueling Kathmandu West Valley Rim. 31 miles, the furthest she had ever run. And guess who won? She kept running other so-called sky runner races, mountain running above 6,000 feet. The results? Win after win, beating men and women all over the world. Today, she's a high-elevation trail racing phenomenon. And in Nepal, she's a hero and an inspiration to young girls in a country where half the women are married before they turn 18. Now she's on a mission to groom Nepalese runners for success. There are countless Mira Rais in Nepal, she says, women who dream of doing something more with their lives.
My colleague Sanjeev from Kathmandu is here to translate, although Mira Rai seems to speak terrific English, so I guess you're just an insurance policy here. If you're
benefiting from this.
Okay. Mira Rai, just a silly question first and then a serious one. We met in my office the other day, and you said after your first run in New York City that there were problems, right? The concrete, and there were no hills anywhere. Have you been running since then? Has it gotten any better?
Yes. In the concrete, for me, like, yeah, I like to run in the road, but I cannot move easily because I'm grow up in a mountain. I like to run in a mountain more easily, relaxedly, but in concrete, bit hard for me to move, relaxedly.
Okay, you prefer, 6,000 meters or something like that, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
More seriously, Mira, you've just heard Indra Nooyi talk about issues and for women and for young girls and trying to help make things better in her world, which is of course quite different. Can you talk a little bit about, at the end of the film, not just your running, but you say you want to help the future Mira Rais in Nepal. What are you doing? What needs to be done? If you need Sanjeev, he's here.
Yeah, now I'm so happy to be here, and I want to everybody support to me. Then I'm here, and now I have many opportunity to do like this kind of sport thing, but we have many runners in Nepal, but they didn't recognize when I was starting. I didn't recognize I can do like this kind of running, and I'm trying to do give opportunity back to them too. They want to everybody they are very inspired. They see me. They said, "Oh, I want to run like you, like Mira Didi or their family. They live in a mountain. We work like when in the morning we start in the trail, and in with load we have to work very hard in the mountain. Then they feel they can run, and now I'm trying to give them to opportunity. This last year I started to do like Mira Rai initiative from through giving I have now 5 girls and
5 what? I'm sorry. 5
girls.
girls.
5 girls, and I'm helping for them to like English class and some lesson. I learned many things about when I ran in the mountain, and international games. I want to reference them to back uh, my thing, what I did, and I'm supporting for them to for financially a little bit and some like learn English to go abroad country and then present themselves to comfortably for themselves, like that's kind. Uh,
So the opportunities that she got, she's from eastern part of Nepal, from a village. So basically, the Mirarai initiative offers the opportunities that she had. There are many runners, potential runners in Nepal, so she wants to avail those opportunities through Mirarai initiative.
Great. Thank you.
yes, thank you.
Thank you. Munjid, we're going to stick with the ladies first thing here because I think that's appropriate. Now, many of you may know, I said lesser known, the story of the girls' robotics team from Afghanistan got a lot of attention a year ago for good reasons and bad, right? I mean, actually, you know what? Let's do the video here too. It'll be better than anything I can say. If you could run the short video about the girls' robotics team. Thank you.
They were a small group of Afghan teenagers suddenly thrust into the international spotlight. 6 girls, members of an all-girl robotics team from Herat, Afghanistan, headed to competition in Washington, where they were stopped because of the US travel ban. Ultimately, they were allowed in and greeted like celebrities.
In Afghanistan, you can feel how electric this atmosphere is today.
A symbol of the resilience and intelligence of young girls from a country where 2 out of 3 girls receive no education at all.
می‌خواستم به مکتب بروم و تا اونجا که ممکن است درس بخوانم تا روزی بتوانم ربات‌های خودم را بسازم.
These girls didn't want to be recognized for the political storm they weathered. They wanted to be recognized for their work.
After a long and arduous process, they are a fan-favorite team here, Team Afghanistan.
And last November, they attended the prestigious Robotex Festival in Estonia, winning the Entrepreneur Challenge. They designed a robot that could use solar energy to support small-scale farmers, a robot that could help feed the people of Afghanistan.
با افتخار به کشور خود بازگشتیم و باعث افتخار افغانستان شد.
They won the medal and they won praise from the country's president. You have opened the door for others to follow, he said. You have presented a new image of Afghanistan to the world.
So it's just a thrill to have you here, and I guess Roya, are you going to do the translating? Actually, Roya, will you say a word about yourself and your connection first to this great team, Afghanistan? Yeah.
First of all, thank you very much for having us here. And I'm Roya Mahboob, CEO and co-founder of Digital Sim Fund, a non-profit organization that trying to empowering women through digital literacy and business skills. And we have a lot of the programs like coding, gaming, and financial literacy. And robotic teams is just not recently, 2 years ago, added to our program. And that's what my relationship with them.
So if you don't mind now to put on your, to turn translator for us for a moment, very curious to know, as said in the video, the statistics of girls who don't get any education is very, very high in your country. At what stage maybe we can just start with you, did you decide or know that this, not just education, but science, engineering, robotics was something that you wanted to take a try at?
سلام به همه. من اولین بار وقتی که 6 سالمه بود برای اولین بار در تلویزیون فیلم های ربات ها دیدم و از اون وقت بود که من با تکنولوژی و ربات ها آشنایی پیدا کردم. مستندهای زیادی راجع به تکنولوژی می دیدم و همین اینها باعث شد تا من به رباتیک علاقه‌مند باشم و او اولین زمانی بود که کسی نتوانست به سوال من پاسخ بده، چون من خیلی کنجکاو بودم و سوال میپرسیدم تا زمانی که 14 سالمه شد و طبق آگاهی که از نهاد دیجیتال سیتیزن فاند دریافت کردیم قرار شد یک امتحان ورودی گرفته بشه از بین 150 شاگرد و ما هم خوشبختانه توانستیم به او امتحان راه پیدا کنیم. از بین 150 شاگرد 6 نفر در نهایت انتخاب شد چون هم علاقه داشتند و یعنی در کل شرایط ورود به مسابقات داشتن، اجازه فامیلی و همچنان پاسپورت، چون باید در وقت بسیار زود لازم بود، همه این شرایط می داشتن تا وارد تیم می شدن.
She said that when I was 6 years old, I had an opportunity to...
6 years old?
When she was 6 years old, she saw a cartoon of iRobots, so she was getting interested on the robotics, and then after that she was continuing to watching the documentary about technology and about the world, and she had a lot of questions because she was so curious to know about these things, but no one around of her could answer any of her questions until that she became 14 years old and she heard about competitions about robotics, and then she decided to participate it, and there was a competition between 150 students that they have to take an exam, and she was part of those 150 students, and then 20 selected, and then 6 of the students, and these 6 students had, most importantly, the family's support, and then as well they had a passport, and they also had a bit information about robotics.
We'll come back to the support issue, but maybe we can ask the same question. When did you decide for the first time this is what you wanted to pursue?
رشته خیلی کم بود و من از کودکی در همین رشته علاقه خاصی داشتم و بیشتر دنبال چیزای پیچیده بودم، چیزایی که بیشتر داخل از کنجکاوی وجود داشته باشه. به خاطر همین بود که وارد رشته تکنولوژی شدم و همچنان ما در افغانستان خیلی کم رشته رباتیک داریم. من که در آینده افغانستان همین رباتیک پیشرفت بدیم و در آینده هم مانند کشورهای دیگه تکنولوژی بالایی داشته باشیم.
I was so interested in technology since I was a kid, and I liked always to look on things that are complex, and I wanted to solve those issues, and that's why I'm so interested to become part of this team. And I think that technology and robotics in Afghanistan, it wasn't considered in the past, but we want that Afghanistan in the future have more words in this technology, and we can change our community.
So a question which could be for you, Roya, or either one from the team. You mentioned support for Team Afghanistan, but I wonder in their communities, in Herat, wherever, whether there was any pushback, any resentment, any criticism, any problems as they have pursued this.
Should I answer? Or?
Why don't you start, and then we'll see what they have to say, yeah?
Sure. Well, I think that Afghanistan is a very conservative country, and back to 8 years ago when we wanted to build IT centers in one of the villages in Herat, and many of the family actually started to protest it, and they said that we will bring the bad values.
I'm sorry, what were you trying to build there?
We wanted to build an IT center inside of the
IT center, got it.
And connected the girls and teaching girls about computer and internet connection, but they thought that this is bring bad values. But backing to today, when the girls become part of the robotic team, of course, robotic is very new. Many people they don't know what is that, and many believe that this is not appropriate for the girls to working in mechanical or electronic or engineering. So that's another issue. But once the girls become part of this team and the team get famous. Of course, some families take their girls out of the programs and they didn't want the girls continue, and there was some threats, but we also had, in other hand, when the girls come back with their medal to Afghanistan, we saw that everything's kind of changed. The community started to support, and they stand up in front of the people who send the threats, and the religious people or conservative people. And today, fortunately, we have the support of the community and the people around of that.
So the medal and the fame helped a little bit. Yeah.
Yes.
And just then we'll come to Dr. Almuderis, but how about the boys? I mean, Well, first of all, is there one doesn't hear much about the Afghan boys robotics team. Is there one, or are they just not that good?
Actually,
or?
they are competing with this team all the time, but I think that the team, the Afghan girls team, did the better jobs in terms of the competition, and they win a couple of the medals. And they're also building the robots to help the community. They are not just building for fun and to enjoying. That most of the boys actually do that, but the girls are usually taking care. They are more care about their society, their environment, and what they build. They care that their time is not to be only waste, but also they have fun, and as well they can help their community to have better lives.
So we'll come back maybe, because I'm curious to ask a little bit about the future. And again, as before, we're informal here. We'll have some time for some questions before we bring our special guest from Thailand up. But Dr. Munjid Al-Mudaris, he really has a story. You'll judge for yourself that, I don't know if you've been told this before, Doctor, but this is a major motion picture, I think, waiting to happen. Is there one in the works, or?
There is a book that has come out. I've published my memoirs. I'm at the stage of publishing my second book, and a couple of companies were interested in buying the rights for the movie and a TV series, but we still haven't decided where to go with it.
So let's so people can understand what we're talking about. Here's what you might call the trailer for the film. Dick Drobnik from our Southern California Center, you may want to tell your film context. Let's go.
He was a young surgeon in Iraq under the regime of Saddam Hussein when a horrifying order came to cut off the ears of soldiers who had escaped from the army. Dr. Munjid Al-Mudaris chose to refuse the order and flee his homeland in a long and harrowing journey across Asia. His new home, Australia, held him in a detention center for nearly a year. Ultimately, he was granted asylum and built a reputation as a top orthopedic surgeon. Then he developed a game-changing technology, a new generation of implants for amputees called osseointegration. It uses a skeletal integrated titanium implant, providing more stability and mobility for patients than ordinary prosthetics.
My first pair of shoes in about 15 years, and I'm looking forward to wearing them.
Last year, Al-Mudaris' story came full circle when he returned to the country he fled, invited by the Prime Minister of Iraq to bring his landmark treatment home.
Everybody deserves to be treated equally.
There, he would operate on hundreds of soldiers who lost limbs in the battle against the Islamic State.
I'm astonished to the way these people healed.
And his care for British soldiers won him a royal champion, Britain's Prince Harry.
We're going to get him across to the UK if we can for an extended period of time, so that we can just put as many guys through as possible, because it's life-changing.
So many others have this surgeon and pioneer to thank for a more promising future than they ever thought possible.
So a lot of places we can begin, but I have to ask what was it like to go back? That was your first trip back to Iraq, or?
Initially, I started offering the Iraqis in 2008, actually, to return back to Iraq and help out army injured soldiers fighting terrorism. But Iraq, unfortunately, have gone through a period after the topple of Saddam Hussein where governments came, all what they were interested in is looting and corruption. So until recently, last year, I was basically in downtown Sydney in the afternoon, and we were just going for dinner with my partner and a couple of other people, and then I received a phone call in the car, and then I answered it, and it says, this is Dr. Al-Mudaris, and I said, yes, who's speaking? And he said, well, can I talk to you? And he started talking in Arabic, and I said, well, can you introduce yourself first? And he said, oh, well, I'm the Iraqi ambassador in Switzerland, and I just need to ask you if you're happy to speak to the Prime Minister. And I said, okay, that's fine. and then
The ambassador in Switzerland?
yeah, well, he was the Iraqi ambassador in Sydney beforehand, and that's why he got my phone number. Obviously, these guys don't know what they're doing, so so they found the number through from one person to the other, and then the Iraqi ambassador in Switzerland turned up to have my phone number. So anyway, so half an hour later, I spoke to the Prime Minister himself, and he said, well, we would like you to come and help us with these soldiers. And I said, well, maybe it's not too late, but I gave you this offer a long time ago. And then eventually I decided to go back, and I took the offer straight away. And within a month, I took a flight to Baghdad, and as the plane was landing, I could see through the window Baghdad, and it looks like a Christmas tree. And I said, "Holy shit, what have I done? I'm going back. I just left. I left this country like 20 years ago, and because I escaped from Saddam Hussein's regime, and what's going to happen to me?" And then, but the treatment was very good. They received us like royalty, and I must admit, they're trying to work on building this country again. So it was a mixed feeling. I was very conscious about the trouble that Iraq has gone through and is still going through. I was very conscious about me leaving Iraq, escaping from a regime that was autocratic and bad dictatorship, and I was conscious that Iraq is run by religious parties that are very fanatic, and I'm very outspoken against fanaticism, and I carry one hat, which is human rights hat in Australia at the moment, and I fight for equality and tolerism, and I'm very outspoken against religious fanatics, and they are very prominent in the government. So it was very, very uncomfortable situation, but all my fears disappeared and dissipated within an hour of me being in Baghdad, and I could see that people are still the same people, and they just want to live, and they just want to have a better chance and a better future, like many parts of the world.
I should know this, but how old were you when you left?
When I left Iraq, I was a junior doctor. I left Iraq in 1999. I was 27 back then.
And so on this trip, we're familiar with the incredible work you did on all those amputees and other war wounded, but did you have a chance to have, outside of the hospital, any kind of reconnection with the place, with your homeland, in a different, not a medical kind of way?
Yeah, look, I've done 5 trips so far to Baghdad, and the last trip was in August, and we managed to take a break and go and visit some of the historic sites and some of the shrines, and I had to cover all my female staff because and it was very funny. They were looking like penguins and walking in the streets with the head cover, and they looked very nice actually. They were blonde and blue eyes, and it was a scene in the city of Karbala where there are the holy shrines, and I could see that the life is normal, and people are selling stuff and wandering around the streets, and I could see people, playing, and I mean, it's not as bad as I expected it to be. And then in the last trip, we left the green zone and operated in the red zone, and we were surrounded by a mini army, basically. It was kind of a show-off from people who are hosting us to show that they are protecting us, but it was very unnecessary because there wasn't much happening. Sadly, Baghdad that I left in 1990 in 1999 hasn't changed at all. There's no brick laid in that city. since then, and there are trillions of dollars spent on that country. But unfortunately, I hope that one day this will be converted toward building the place back again. They still have no electricity. They still have no proper water. But you know, these things happen after wars, and places turn into chaos, and then order take place gradually.
Well, thank you for that. Again, we'll open to any questions that folks may have in the audience. I do want to come back, Roya, but maybe we'll let the young ladies speak about, not that you're not a young lady, but the folks from the team here to talk about their future. So how old are you both? 15? 15. So you're champions in the world of global robotics competition. What are your dreams? What would you like to, if you're back on this stage or any other stage in 10 years, let's say, 20 years?
خب هدف ما ساخت اولین مکتب استیم که شامل ساینس، تکنولوژی، انجینری، آرت و متن میشد بود که ما خوشبختانه اخیراً توانستیم این پلان با رئیس جمهور کشور خود در میان بگذاریم و موافقت شد. ما میخوایم این مکتب ساخته بشه تا همه استعدادهای افغانستان در اونجا رشد کنند و تربیت شوند تا ما بتونیم در آینده مخترعینی مثل انیشتین و رابرت اوپنهایمر و مانند اینها رو در افغانستان پرورش کنیم، چرا که متاسفانه اونقدر توجهی که باید ما در کشورهای جهان سوم مثل افغانستان، هند، پاکستان و همه کشورها بشه به تکنولوژی نیست و ما میخواییم با ساختن این مکتب یک چراغ روشن کنیم در راه قدم گذاشتن به علم و تکنولوژی و زمین و من فکر میکنم که اگر این مکتب ساخته شد ما 10 سال بعد میتونیم افغانستان با تکنولوژی داشته باشیم که گپ اول یک گپی برای گفتن داره و تنها با نام جنگ ترور شناخته نمیشه و در عرصه تکنولوژی استیم و رشته های AI گپ میزنه.
So,
I heard the words Robert Oppenheimer. That's the only thing I heard. But
she said that one of our plan is that to building the STEM schools in Afghanistan and the science, technology, engineering, art, and math for the young kids that they can come to this school to be the next inventor or designer, like what was the name?
Robert Oppenheimer. Yeah.
Robert and Einstein, and she said that we are working so hard on that to building these schools in Afghanistan, and we are hoping within the next 5 to 10 years see Afghanistan in a country with talking in a technology and innovation in AI and robotics, than a country that people knows as a war, as a country of the terror and war.
Your dream, 10 years, 20 years, what would you like to be doing?
خب در قرن 21 قراره که همه کشورها همگی در کل آینده توسط همین تکنولوژی هسته و ما در همین مکتبی که ما بسازیم که افغانستان هم در آینده در تکنولوژی خب پیشرفته بده و همین قسم که آرزوی ما برآورده شد در بخش تکنولوژی، شاید عده زیادی از دخترها و پسرها همین آرزو داشته باشند تا خواسته باشند در بخش تکنولوژی پیشرفت کنند و با ساخت این مکتب ما میتونیم رویاهای از اونها رو حقیقت و ما یک مکانیکال انجینیرینگ بخونم و در آینده در کشور خود خدمت کنم.
In order to compete in 21st centuries, we must have access to the technology, groundbreaking technologies, and that's what I wanted, that many of the kids in Afghanistan has a dream. As we achieve our dreams, we want those kids also have, they can also achieve their dreams in science and technology, and I wanted to be mechanical engineers in the future.
Good. I'm sure you're going to meet your dreams and then some. There's some interesting questions that are coming in online. I maybe start with those, but Any hands up in the audience? I defer to the folks who are here. Yeah, in the front row we have actually, may I introduce you, Munir? So just in, I mentioned that these are only some of the game changers. You may have heard of the incredible organization, the Syrian White Helmets, who are basically the only first responders left in that country, going, really following every time there's a bomb disaster or an airstrike, and going to rescue and help the wounded. The vice chair of the White Helmets from Idlib in Syria, Mr. Munir Mustafa, is here.
اسمي منير مصطفى. السؤال موجه للدكتور. طبعا مثل ما بتعرف انه سوريا عانت من حرب لمده تقريبا 7 سنوات، وللاسف صار في عندنا العديد من الاصابات او حالات البتر باطراف سفليه او علويه. فايش هي امكانيه او ايش هي الفرصه اللي ممكن نحن نقدر نكسب الدكتور انه يدخل لسوريا ويساعدنا ايضا بمعالجه هذه الحالات اللي صارت موجوده عندنا؟
No. We have a translator, but we're not putting you to work. Go ahead.
I'm sure the doctor understood the question,
Yeah.
but I'll just quickly translate. So Munir Mustafa is from the White Helmets, or Syrian Civil Defense, and he has mentioned that, as we all know, Syria has been in a devastating civil war for 7 years, entering its 8th, and there are a lot of rescue volunteers and workers who have been hurt and injured because of the tragedies and dangerous situations. So does the doctor see himself in the future doing any type of humanitarian work there? And if so, what are the opportunities that perhaps the White Helmets and him can partner?
So it's one thing to go to Baghdad, but do you have any...
I knew that was coming.
But I guess you could see people
definitely.
outside. Well, go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, definitely, by all means. Look, I think the work that you do, and I've heard about the work that the White Helmets have done, it's way beyond what minds can take, and it's a great job, and I have my hat off for all of you. And I've been to Damascus in 1996, and it was a beautiful city, and bring tears to my eyes to see what happens to this city and what happened to this country. And it's very shameful that people end up like that. But that country lasted 7,000 years, and it will survive. So there will be hope. So definitely, I'm more than happy to take your offer. I do a lot of humanitarian work around the world. It's not excluded to Iraq. I've been to Cambodia, I've been to Myanmar, I've been to Laos, I've been to India, I've been to the West Bank, I've been
Always
to
doing
Israel.
this procedure? Yeah.
Yes, and all other kind of trauma. I'm a trauma surgeon, and so I've been to Lebanon, Jordan. I've treated Syrian patients, and I've seen Syrian patients in Israel, actually, out of all places you would expect. So there is a lot of work that's done behind the scenes that people don't see, and sometimes conflicts can bring nations that are old enemies to work toward humanity and toward helping each other. And definitely, yes, the earliest opportunity for me to get to Syria, I would take it. I know that with Homeland Security this can be an issue, because since I've been to Iraq, every time I come to this country I get interrogated for a while, but who cares? That's a small price you pay.
Mira Rai, we have a question on the iPad for you. Jennifer, via email, has a question. What is the #1 piece of advice? What advice do you have for girls who are not natural runners, but would like to develop to be good runners? We have 4 languages going today, if you're keeping track.
We have to, when we don't have skill, but when we grow, we don't have skill, but when keep moving, and we see many things, and then we can do like we have to learn more, and we have to train or what to like to do, something, some like some people like different kind our thing we have, and I really like to run in the mountain, and someone they really like to run in the mm, in like marathon or another many kind of sport. Like what do you like to you love to do, and we have to keep moving more. We have to work very hard and keep moving how possible. Look forward which one possible. Please do it. And when I was grow, I didn't have opportunity, but I always moving what I can do. Then what is possible? I always trying to get opportunity to learn with friend, with where you are, and keep moving. Then we'll be come trail runner, or will be sporter or soccer, or everywhere we have we we can do it.
Okay.
Keep trying and keep moving. Don't. My thing is every it's very important to learn, and if we learn, we can very easily solve our problem thing, and then we'll go very quickly in our dream or where you want to be. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, one more for this group, and then we're going to bring our friends from Thailand to the stage. Yes, ma'am.
I have two questions, if that's all right.
If you can keep them short.
Yes. So my first question is for Dr. El-Mudarris. Thank you very much for your hard work and your service. You are an inspiration to the Middle East and people everywhere. So you mentioned that you wear a human rights hat in Australia, and that you were also held in a detention center for a year when you arrived. And I was just wondering about your experiences there, and if it's changed since the influx of Syrian and Iraqi refugees since.
Yeah, this is a very sad story. I mean, look, I'm a very proud Australian. I'm a squadron leader in the Australian Air Force. I serve the Australian Defence, and I'm proud to be Australian. But unfortunately, we have very amateur politicians in our country that, I don't want to talk about politics, but the immigration policy in Australia is less than favorable toward human beings. And I am kind of a thorn in the Australian government's back, because I keep fighting them about human rights. The situation in the detention centers have been very bad for over 20 years now, and people are still incarcerated in detention centers in Australia. Unfortunately, Australia is the only country that incarcerates children among adults, and that needs to stop. And hopefully there is a huge move from the Australian public to force that to cease. On the other hand, Australia has great deal of good work toward bringing refugees from overseas, and I'm participating in the process of settling 12,000 Syrian refugees in Australia. And again, it comes down to politics and politicians and how they run it. And there is good intention and there is goodwill about settling people. And the overall community approach toward people from war-torn countries, especially the Middle East, is changing. People are no longer seeing these as terrorists. They're no longer seeing these people as economic migrants, and the eyes are open toward the human side of things, and there is a great deal of acceptance now, and the tide is definitely changing. So I'm very optimistic. I am a very positive thing by nature, and I look at the glass half full, and I think the future is brighter. And we just need to keep voicing our concerns about any kind of breach of human rights. And one good thing is that Australia and America are countries that live under a constitution and under a law. And that's what's lacking in a lot of the Middle Eastern countries. So there is always governance of the law, and that's very important. And hopefully the Middle East will reach to that stage at one day.
Thank you. I think we have to leave just the one question in fairness to our next guest. And frankly, again, all these conversations could go longer. Folks will be around for a bit more. We're going to bring our guests from Thailand to the stage. But before we do, please, thank you to Team Afghanistan, Roya Mahboob, Dr. Medeiros, and Mira Rai. So while we switch here, let me just say a couple of things. And here we're in the needs no introduction category. No videos need to be shown because you've probably watched plenty of them this summer. But in choosing this next Asia Game Changer group, it is just such a pleasure to celebrate some good news. And I mean, you've just heard inspiring stories, but from some pretty tough parts of the world. And I don't know that there was a better news story in terms of the outcome anywhere in Asia or maybe anywhere on the planet this year than the stories that transpired in those caves in northern Thailand in our summer. And we have with us today 3 people who were key players in that drama. Hold your applause, if you would, for a moment. The man who coordinated the rescue operations as governor of Chiang Rai province, really became the face of the whole story as a spokesman for everything that was going on. Narongsak Osatanakorn is with us today. Actually, take a seat, please. And then why don't they come up together? Right here on my left is 14-year-old Adul Samon, who served. So he's a member of the Wild Boars soccer team and who served as an interpreter of sorts, as the only one inside those caves who could speak some English and therefore communicate with that first British diver who found them. And with them, and a gentleman who really is credited for, it's not an exaggeration, with keeping them not only mentally okay, but keeping them alive, sharing his rations and everything else. What a privilege to introduce you, sir, Kun Ekapol Chantawong, the coach of the Wild Boars team. Now, you should know, oh, should I sit in the middle? Okay. That the 2 gentlemen to my right, and we should have the translator come up. Okay. These 2 gentlemen, I just want them to be able to understand that they arrived on a flight from Buenos Aires this morning at 5 a.m. Newark. And so their first stop, other than, I guess, the hotel, on their first visit to the United States is to the Asia Society. So thank you. I'm sorry, but can we have somebody who speaks better Thai than I do just help them to understand? There you are, ma'am. Don't be shy. Khop kun mak kap. Wow, that's about it. Thank you so much. So first of all, we'll come to you, Governor, just in a moment. How was Buenos Aires? And I mean, they didn't just go to Buenos Aires. This is, of course, a young soccer player and his soccer coach. They played a friendly in the stadium where the 1978 World Cup was held. So can we just have a couple of words about what it was like to be in Argentina and in that place? I've never been to Argentina. I have a microphone.
เป็นสิ่งที่น่าตื่นเต้นแล้วก็เป็นสิ่งที่น่าเรียนรู้มากๆครับ
So he's saying that being able to play soccer or football at the stadium was very exciting because they've never really gone to that kind of that place before, so it was very exciting for them.
ก็รู้สึกดีใจครับและได้เรียนรู้หลายๆอย่างจากการที่ได้ไปสัมผัสเป็นระดับนักกีฬามืออาชีพในที่บนรถไอเรนครับ
Okay, so he's saying that it was very excited and he was happy that he was able to learn a lot of things at a world-class level from professional football players as well.
Okay, we'll come back to you in a moment. I want to come to the governor, and I'm not sure I did justice in my introduction in just explaining that, as I understand it, you not only were on television 24 hours a day explaining, and we know what that's like here in a crisis, somebody becomes the face of the crisis, but you also had to coordinate. How many people were involved in Thailand and from around the world in this effort?
Almost 10,000 people involved.
Yeah.
And about a couple of hundred of international expertise.
Yeah. And you had to say no to some people, didn't you?
Yes.
I mean, I don't know the whole story, but Elon Musk from Tesla, right? I mean, didn't he send some kind of submarine or something to? That didn't work.
Thank you for Elon. That submarine is maybe new technology that he sent to the cave,
Yeah.
and but not good luck for him because the last day, and we finished helping the children for a couple of days, and they ate alive and healthy. So we
You didn't
strict
need it.
with our old hand.
Okay.
So we don't use but we bring the submarine to use in the SEAL and the Science and Technology Ministry.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. I have to ask you to be honest with us. In the early days, you know, when there was no news, you have to keep giving the people hope in your public. Did you yourself, did you believe it was going to be okay? How worried were you?
A lot of worry, but when you're in charge of helping the people, you have to believe that they're still alive, they're still okay, and every day, every single minute, you spend all of your energy to help them. And you have to encourage all the people in front of the cave to believe you and to help the people.
The people who were waiting? Yes. Yeah. Talk a little bit about that day when, because there were really two incredible moments of good news, I guess. The first one, when we were all, the whole world was really watching when the diver reaches them. How did you get that news? And talk a little bit about what it was like when you heard they were found, but they were not safe yet, right?
That is the 10th day of the mission. And I think all of the people who help in front of the cave still worry that 10 days we cannot reach the children and we cannot find them. So a lot of people don't believe that they're still alive. And a lot of pressure on my shoulder to try to help. And at that day, a couple of English divers, they reached the children around 9:30 o'clock at night. And for me and my staff, we have a meeting in front of rain. Try to think that if we cannot find the children at that night, tomorrow what we try to do, because a lot of bad news come, like the new storm coming.
New storms, yeah.
Yes. And they said that the meteorology said that the new storm will be bigger than the last storm. So if we cannot reach the children in a couple of days, maybe a lot of problem will be facing us. One of a SEAL team, Thailand team, came to me and said that they have news, and they bring me out of the meeting. Maybe 100 meters far from the meeting, they said to me that the governor will find the children all alive and in good health. My face not believe him. I said to him that you check the news already, because the diver that we sent in the cave in that morning, maybe will a couple of hours, they will reach the front of the cave. They said that no, one of them is out, and they said that healthy and alive. I said to him that, can I announce this situation? He said that up to me, but I would like to check again that all of the 13 boys are alive and healthy.
Yeah, you can't say anything without.
But we think about that. But the world want to be heard the good news.
Right.
If we wait for a couple of hours, maybe some media, if they have something like hey, we found the children, but in charge of the commander, you don't say that you found the children. Maybe they don't believe you anymore. So we have tried to manage about the news and the fact.
Did you wait until you saw the pictures? Is that what you waited for?
No. I called the meeting, especially the head of our team. And I said to him that the SEAL team with the couple of English cave diver, they are the specialist cave diver in the world. And we call them from British, and some from some Europe, and some from Australia. And we said that in the meeting, I said that the first news of alive and healthy, but I would like to check for the fact that this information is real.
Sure.
But in the meeting, most of them said that we have to announce.
Yep.
Because if we didn't announce, maybe all the people that watching, that they will be curious that 10 days the boy was lost. If we announce and we try to manage information better than this, it's okay. But if we take this information for a couple of hours and we don't announce, maybe some media don't believe us anymore.
Yeah.
So I came out and I still call the meeting. And I came out of the meeting. I go to their parent.
To their parents.
Go to their parent first. And I said to their parent that I found your kid.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
Healthy, alive, all of them.
But still stuck in the cave.
Yeah, still stuck in the cave. And I tried to be my best to bring them out alive.
So before we get to that part, I want to ask Coach Konek, you have gotten a lot of credit for, as I said, for giving some food and things to the boys. But how do you, we talked about hope. How did you keep hope strong in those days? Can you?
I think that Coach Ek is he studied the Buddhist, and he tried to bring all the kids to be in calm and still believe that someone will help them. because they heard. I talked to them that something that sometimes they heard that we try to find them. He heard maybe the whistle and something that we call them. So.
Do you mind just so he can understand? How did he keep hope?
อธิบายว่าทำไมเด็กถึงจะเชื่อว่าเราจะไปหาเจอไม่เป็นไรเดี๋ยวก่อน
ก็พยายามคือทุกคนมั่นใจว่ามีความหวังว่ายังไงก็คือผู้ใหญ่ทุกคนนะก็คือจะไม่ทอดทิ้งพวกเราแน่นอน
So he said that everybody already believed that the adults will come looking for them anyway, so they never lost hope. So they know that someone will come and rescue them.
And I know we don't want to harp too much on these days for Adun, but I just have to ask about the English. So what did the key word in English, if I understood in terms of the story you told and the British diver coming, was the number 13. Did you understand that number, or did you understand the full, I mean, what do you remember of when the British diver came, and is it correct that Adun was actually the one who was able to communicate so that they could understand?
เขาถามว่าวันนั้นที่นักดำน้ำอังกฤษไปเจอแล้วเราคุยกับเขาเนี่ยเป็นภาษาอังกฤษเนี่ยเรื่องจำนวนหรือเรื่องสุขภาพอะไรเป็นยังไงแล้วเราเป็นคนบอกเขาเองว่า13นะเราเจอยังไงแล้วเราพูดกับเขาว่า13หรืออะไรยังไง
ใช่นะก็ เขามาถามว่าพวกเธอมีทั้งหมดกี่คนผมก็ตอบไปว่ามี13คนแล้วเขาก็ถามว่าพวกคุณเป็นยังไงบ้างอย่างนี้ครับก็โอเคครับยังมีแรงไหว
So when he met the divers, when they asked him how many people there were in the cave, he told them that there were 13 people in there. And when another question was with that, how is everybody? And he said that everybody was fine, okay. So he was the one who answered, yes.
One of the others in your delegation told us just now over lunch that talking about how it has been since this ordeal, that he, and I guess speaking for a lot of people in Thailand, have been so impressed by the way the boys have, you know, you're famous, but you're not acting like you're famous. Somebody said that they, I don't know if it's Adun or one of the others, who now has 300,000 followers on Instagram. But if I can just ask, what is it like? I mean, this is still only a couple of months ago. You're traveling around the world. Does it seem sometimes like a little bit of a dream, or is it easy to still have the normal life back in Thailand? Speak a little bit about how things have changed since then.
ก็ใช้ชีวิตปกติครับแต่เรื่องที่ว่าเป็นคนดังนี่คือไม่ใช่ครับเพราะว่าก็คือเป็นปกติเหมือนเดิมนี่แหละเพียงแต่ว่ามีคนรู้จักเพิ่มขึ้นเท่านั้นนะครับ
So he's saying that he doesn't think that he's famous. He's living his normal life like he usually does, but it's just that things have changed in the bit, and that more people know about him and know who he is, but he still thinks that he's not famous.
And how about Adun? When you go to school, are you just one of the boys, or is there a feeling that there's something special about you now?
มันก็มีบ้างครับแต่เราก็ยังเป็นคนเหมือนเดิมปกติ
He's saying that some people might think that he might be special, but he still thinks that he's normal, just like anybody else. He's not famous at all.
You know,
it's a very good answer.
in Thai tradition, the people always think that we are shy to present ourselves. If you say that we are hero or we are some people that famous in the world, so I don't, after finish the mission, I say in my work, and I think that the same. Some people look at us as we are very famous, but I think that we think that we are not. We just do our job, get our job done. In the commander, I think that I just do my job, do my responsibility, and get my job done. After it finished, I will be the same person. I think the kids is also the same.
Do you think that there's a lesson for leaders anywhere I mean, of course, it's an extraordinary experience for you in that kind of command post that you had. Is there a lesson? We've had other leaders from all kinds of different experiences in different parts of the world. But what did you learn something in this process about being?
The lesson that I learned, I think that more than 10,000 people come from anywhere in Thailand. They don't know all the kids, or the 13 kids, or they don't know the coach, Ekapon. They don't know. I don't know Ekapon, and I don't know the kid before. But we think that we have to do something to bring them out. I think 10,000 people also think like this. They came in front of the cave. Also, a couple of hundreds of people internationally, they came into the cave. Not for famous. Not think that we are famous or something. If we can get the job done, we can make the mission possible, we are famous. No. They think that they want to bring the kid out of the cave alive. Every person think like that. So, if in the real world, the people stay like this, change a little bit of mind, change a little bit of integrity, and you have something, you dominate something that you, to the social, to the world, and bring people to live for after. I think the world will be better than this.
I think you're right. A question online, and then if there are any questions from the audience, we'll take you in a second, sir, in the middle here. But somebody asked over the internet for Adun, how has your friendship grown with your teammates and your coach since this experience?
ดีขึ้นเลยครับทุกอย่างคือเหมือนเป็นพี่น้องครอบครัวเดียวกันครับ
So he's saying that that relationship has gotten stronger because they feel like a family because they spent a long time together in that cave.
A better soccer team?
Team, yes.
They play with the junior River Plate. Score 3-3. Yeah, 3-3.
I know, it's all over CNN. You can't miss it. I mean, gentleman here in the... hang on, if you can just wait for a microphone.
Hi, Mark Aronson, Rutgers University. I've written a book for children or the same age as the team about the cave rescue, and I have a question about one thing that hasn't been described. We've seen the pictures of the team on the sandy bank, and we see the moment when Adul and the team comes down to where John and Rick met them. But no one has described what it was like around the corner, where they were, where they all lived on those days, where they must have been scratching in the rock and meditating, taking the water from the stalactites. What was that like? What was it? What was the physical area? And how were they? Were they all together? Were they spread out? Did they do things together or only individually? Nothing has been described about that inside only on the sandy bank down to the water where they met the divers. So anything we could learn about what it was like inside,
you've
around
already written a
the
book
corner.
about this?
I have written a book about it, which I actually would love to give to them to read.
Okay. Did you get that? That's a tough one to translate, I would think, but okay.
มันเป็นเรื่องของเรื่องภายในถ้ำซึ่งตรงเนี้ยเรารอที่จะทำI think that the story in the cave now we waiting for we write down the after action review in Thailand.
After action review, yeah.
What happened in the cave? After we finish, after action review for the Ministry of Interior, maybe something will be clarified. But we waiting for the after action review.
I think also there's a little, and you may have sensed it, or a little bit of reticence about getting into, with them especially, too much of the, reliving too much of that trauma. Did you have a question, ma'am, here on the left? Or hang on for the microphone, if you would.
I'm a meditation teacher. I've been meditating for years. So all I could think of if most of the boys learned meditation during the time they were in the cave, because we all know the power.
Yeah. That's a good question for the coach. Did you meditate in the caves with the boys?
ก็มีทำสมาธิในถ้ำเพื่อที่ให้จิตใจสงบนะครับ
So he's saying that he meditated for some time so that everybody could have a calm kind of feeling, so that to keep everyone calm, he made the children kind of meditate with him.
This is a good and very best lesson, because in the cave you have a little bit of oxygen level. At that time, at the time that we bring the kid out, the oxygen level is 15%. When today in this auditorium we breathe about 21% of oxygen level, but in the cave they have only 15%. If the oxygen level go down to 12%, maybe they will shock and maybe coma. So the thing that Coach Ekapon teach their staff to meditation, it will be calm down and spend a little bit of breathing and spend a little bit of oxygen, so they can take the oxygen for a long time. I think this is a better lesson learned.
Well, you've just answered. There's a question actually about staying mentally strong through meditation online, so that's asked and answered. Was there another one in the middle here? A couple. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Heike Buchter, Die Zeit, German newspaper. I had a question for Adul and his coach too. This has been quite something in your life that basically will determine how it goes forward, probably, or most likely. What does he think he will be or do in about 5 or 10 years from now?
Thai World Cup team.
Best soccer.
Best soccer?
Yeah, I will talk to you.
Chokdi. Yes, ma'am, in the middle.
Hi, Elizabeth Shim from UPI. I'm a reporter. My question is for the coach and Adul. I was wondering, I know the coach spent a lot of effort to calm the team, but I was wondering if he thought this rescue and the survival of all a miracle, and if it fits his definition of a miracle. Thank you.
เป็นเรื่องที่น่าเหลือเชื่อมากๆไม่คิดไม่ฝันว่าคนทั่วโลกจะมาช่วยเหลือพวกผมและขอบคุณทุกคนทั่วโลกที่คอยช่วยเหลือและคอยให้กำลังใจมาโดยตลอดครับ
So he's saying that it's unbelievable that every person around the world would come and rescue them, and he would like to express his thanks and gratitude to everybody who came and helped them.
Thank you. Now, one of the things that we talk about how your lives have changed. You've gone to Buenos Aires. Here you are in New York. Next stop, Los Angeles, by the way. For either of you, looking at the world map, where would you like to go if you could continue? I know you have to go back home at some point, but do you have a particular place you'd like to visit? I'm sure there's a lot of people who would like to see you. So.
อยากไปไหนอยากไปไหนต่ออยากไปไหนต่อยังไงก็ต้องไปแต่เราอยากไปไหนตอบให้อันที่
He said that he doesn't know yet.
You have time to think about it. And just back to soccer for a second. I read somewhere, this is not just a weird question I'm asking, that because this happened right around the time of the World Cup, that actually you were, I mean, one of the ways to distract from the trauma was that you actually, the boys anyway, were really thinking about and they wanted to know the news, and there was a Croatia fan there and they were doing very well. Were you actually thinking about World Cup soccer while you were in there?
ก็มีคิดอยู่ว่าตอนนี้บอลถึงคู่ไหนแข่งแล้วอะไรประมาณเนี้ย
So yeah, they thought about it. They thought about the pairs who's going up against next and stuff like that. But yeah.
Okay. So I think when you Tom asked the question that they think where they want to go, I think that the kid cannot answer this question because they want to go to normal life. So I think that they have only a month a vacation, but next month they have to go to school.
Sure. That's a little thing called school.
They cannot answer you. They cannot answer you where they want to go.
Yeah, that's a good point. The tour has to stop. Yes, in the back. Yes, ma'am. We have time for just a couple more.
Thank you. My name is Nitikan Kamlangwan from Voice of America Thai Service. So all the questions going to be in Thai for both of the speakers. เริ่มที่ท่านผู้ว่าเลยนะคะท่านรู้สึกอย่างไรกับการมารับรางวัลในความเห็นของท่านคะแล้วก็คิดว่ารางวัลนี้มันสำคัญยังไงกับคนไทยคะ
And now I need some translation, or the audience does.
So the question was that the governor, how does he feel about coming up to receive the award today, and how important he thinks the award is for the Thai people?
In my opinion, that I think that I just one of the 10,000 people who involved in this mission. The award, the prize, will be for 10,000 people that involved. They have to be. They should be here in New York, 10,000 people. But we cannot be here, all the people.
Yeah, we're a not-for-profit organization, so.
Yeah, so I am the representative of them. And I think that this is, I think, the most award that I got the most important award in my life, for my opinion. The most important. But for the country of Thailand, I think that this prize will bring the people to think about that Thailand, we are the small country in Southeast Asia, but we have the potential to do many things, many missions, or everything could be done if we have something like to help each other, to be united. If we think about the one goal, we can do it. So I think that this will be the lesson learned of Thai people. If we have only one goal, Thai people can do it.
Well said. And you said it's the best award you've ever gotten. I assume it's the biggest, I hope for you, it's the biggest job you'll ever have to tackle. So just an add to the young woman's question, I didn't get into this before, but we actually are honoring another nation and another major rescue effort tonight, and that's the heroes from Fukushima, from the disaster there 7 plus years ago now. And that had already been decided and everything else at about the time of this crisis. And of course, they're completely different. I mean, you can't really even compare, obviously, the scale and the end story and everything else, but the response and the heroism on both sides and the resilience seemed similar. And so some of the folks in our global network said we should do an honor for the Thais as well. And the response was very similar. Nobody in Japan wants to be the one person who accepts on behalf of all these people. So this is an honor for the governor, for for the coach, for all the kids, and all the people, as you say. But 10,000 people don't fit on this stage. So.
And I think that the Fukushima, maybe the scale of helping other people is more than it.
Of course.
In Japan.
Yeah. We could do one more, and then we really need to wrap. Well, I actually can answer that. They are in Buenos Aires. Adona and his coach were kind enough to take a little detour. And I do want to, by the way, in addition to thanking the three of them, so they're going straight on to Los Angeles, I want to thank the representatives from Thailand who are here. Because it's one thing to just decide in midsummer that you want to do this, but then you have to call the Consul General from Thailand, Kun Nippon, and then he has to call people. I mean, I don't know the half of what went on, but we knew it would be hard to arrange, and Khop-kun Ma Kap, Sawadee Kap.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all for coming. Good luck to both of you, and we'll see some of you tonight, and the rest of you, thank you for coming to the Asia Society this afternoon. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Khop-kun Ma Kap. Sawadee Kap. Khop-kun Ma Kun.